So today we're pretty excited. You know, last week a lot of things changed for the state, and in order to stay on top of what's happening and really bringing you guys the most up-to-date information, we reached out to a couple of members of the Economic Recovery Council that the governor had put together, and we were able to get a couple of them today with us, as well as Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque. So we're going to be talking about the reopening plan for New Mexico. What are they experiencing? What do they know? What can they share with us? And so we're going to kind of just do a round robin, but you guys that are out there that are watching, please ask questions, put comments in. We will respond to them. If we don't get to everything or a question that we don't have the answer to, we will follow up with you. So what I'd like to do is have the panel introduce themselves, and then that way you guys know who everybody is, and then we'll get started. So we'd like to start with Mr. Brian Moore.
Thanks, Shay. Appreciate it. I am Brian Moore. My wife and I, Linda and I, own Clayton Ranch Market in Clayton, New Mexico. It's the far northeastern corner, so you go almost to Texas and almost Oklahoma, and that's where we are.
Carrie?
Hi, my name is Carrie Phyllis, and I am the owner of Effects Nightclub as well as the Salt Yard here in Albuquerque.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Good afternoon, everyone. Cynthia Jaramillo, Director of Economic Development for the City of Albuquerque. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Maylene?
Good morning, everyone. My name is May Wang, I'm the Director of Economic Development for Bernalillo County. Thank you so much for having us here, Shannon. This is so great. I really appreciate it.
We're excited to hear from you guys. Thank you for joining us. And Marcos, I can't see you on my screen, but I know you're there.
No worries. Hi, Shannon. I'm Marcos Gonzalez, Assistant Director of Economic Development for Bernalillo County. And just thank you for having us.
Thank you guys so much. So I'm going to let you guys get started, but you know there's a lot of questions. We've been given the extended date of May 15th, so businesses are starting to get ready. For those that are not open yet, what does that reopening plan look like? And we know that several of you guys are small business owners as well. So Brian, we're just going to start this conversation with you, and we will move from there. So Shay, if you'd like to pop up the graphic, and we'll get started.
All right, Shannon, if that helps. This was all from the governor's press conference on Thursday of last week, and we had the council had looked at some of this data earlier in the week, and on Wednesday we supported unanimously the governor going forward with this kind of preparation phase, is what she calls it, and it started last Friday. It'll go up until through the 15th, and then we'll be in phase 1 on the 16th. So some of the things that happened over the weekend that we're excited about was, first, we got some golf courses opened up, not all of them, but some of them. Give people a chance to go out and play a little golf, get out in the open air. That's really nice. And we started opening state parks. Now, we wanted to open all of them, but we don't have enough staff. So we opened, I think, 8 of them, and they'll be continuing to open up in the days and in the next week or so to come as they get enough help. So we're pretty excited about that. Those are things that I got pushed on a lot early on, just so people can get out. You know, tired of sitting at home. They want to go out and get some air and see some of the great sights of New Mexico. So that's that's the big thing that happened over the weekend. But you can see on the screen the pet services, the veterinarians are now permitted to do whatever they need to do. Gun stores can be operated by appointment for background checks, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that happened, but the main thing, and I think what Carrie and I have been telling the Recovery Council, is we've got to give everybody a heads up. So if we're going to be telling a clothing store in Clayton that they can be open up on the 16th, what is it going to take? What are they going to have in terms of things for their employees, things for their customers, how many people they can have in their store, so they can start getting ready for all of that. You know, those of us, I'm in the grocery business, we've been open all along, but it just was learn as you go and a little bit hectic. So we want to make it a much more smoother transaction to be safe for the employer, the employees, and their customers that come in.
So as a small business owner, Brian, I know that you have definitely felt some of the effects of the COVID-19. And although you've remained open, of course, we understand that there has been some stress on small business owners when it comes to their employees, when it comes to, do they keep them, do they not, how do they bring them back? So maybe you could give us just a little bit of a guide as to what you're doing just as a small business owner in regards to your employees and staff, and anything that you can share with small business owners that are trying to figure out how to bring their employees back to the table.
It's a good question, and like I said, we kind of got thrown in the middle of it all. We knew the coronavirus was out there, but I don't think any of us really thought it would impact us in the way it did. And so all of a sudden on March 12th, we got tons of customers lined up buying all the toilet paper in the world, and so we just kind of jumped in, and we found I got lucky, I guess. I had 2 or 3 boxes of face masks from another issue several years ago. So we had face masks. We keep a lot of plastic gloves in the store anyway, so we had gloves. We had a really good stock of sanitizer. That's harder to get now than it was then. So we were actually in pretty good shape. We had a lot of people working a lot of overtime trying to cover everything. We started doing what we call our hazardous duty pay, since they're essential workers and first line responders to the food needs of the world. We gave everybody $100 a week bonus, just thanking them for being here. That's important to Linda and I, it's important to our customers here in Union County. But I think you got to look at all of that. We have a responsibility at Clayton Ranch Market to have the things that people in Clayton and Union County need. We got to have food, we got to have all those things, and it's a real responsibility. And we wanted to make sure that our customers knew that we knew that responsibility, that our employees felt it with us, and they've been really, really good. It's been we've worked hard, but it's been a good experience, I think.
So I wanted to just touch a little bit about you being a small business owner, because we do have a lot of small business owners that are watching, and they're looking to some of the other small business owners for guidance and leadership during this time. But if you could just share with us a little bit about the Economic Recovery Council and exactly what is your role, and then what is the role of the council?
The governor picked a pretty wide variety of people, both from different industries. We've got somebody from the film industry, we've got people from the United Soccer team, we've got oil people from the southeast and oil people from the northwest. We got I'm from Clayton, which may be the smallest town on the council. Carrie represents some of the restaurant people, and so we just it's a big variety, and so it's kind of fun to get together and talk about with the banker and others that are on the council what they're seeing and what they're hearing, and we share emails. So last week I got emails from dentists, and they want to open up their practices. And then this weekend, some of the other council members got emails from dental assistants that are not ready to go back yet. So it's kind of that push and pull. We love to respond. I'm getting Facebook messages and texts and emails from every kind of business about what their issues are and what they need to start opening up. So it's our job as the council is to kind of look at all that. And we start every meeting with a little bit of a discussion about what's going on in the COVID world. What's going on in Gallup and McKinley County, for example, what's going on in San Juan County, how many cases they've got in Creek. Kind of gives us an idea where we are and where we're headed. And the governor and her medical team have given us some guideposts. So we've got to get the transmission rate down. We've got to see some declining caseloads, those kinds of things. And we know when we can get there, then we can start opening up more businesses. And the governor feels, other than the hot spots in the Northwest, the state is doing a really good job. And we just need to continue that for another week or so, and then give people time to understand what they need to do for their employees and customers, and then we'll be ready to open up more. Now, we're not going to be 100% open. Carrie and I have been talking a little bit about restaurants, and she can talk more about that in a second. We're not going to be full 100% occupancy, all that stuff over the next couple of weeks. That'll take some time.
So that definitely is a great segue into coming on over to Carrie. So Carrie, I want to thank you for joining us today. I can imagine you're busy getting ready to reopen what your plan may be, but tell us a little bit about you, tell us a little bit about your business, and then your position within the council as well.
So unfortunately, unlike Brian, I was not able to keep any of my businesses open. Had to close all 3 of them. We laid off 123 employees, which was obviously a very difficult decision to do, but I do believe, given where we were at the time, it was the right decision to do. We closed before the governor actually mandated the closures. Was trying to give my employees a little heads up on getting unemployment. And it's like Brian said, all of us are from different sectors, and it's been interesting because I don't know anything about grocery stores. I don't know anything about oil and gas. None of them know anything about the restaurant and bar industry. So it's been really interesting because we're also having to educate each other, and it's, of course, we're all very, keen to our industries. And I've been pushing a lot, obviously, for bars and restaurants. And because I know what my P&L looks like, I know what a fixed cost is for me. And I know what it will do if we're not able to open with as many people as possible. But again, we need to do this in a safe way. And, one of the big things people have to understand is one of the things we're doing right now is we're doing these subcommittees to write the guidelines for people to reopen. Just reopening isn't the option. We have to make sure that people have the correct sanitizer, that they understand, how we can operate a restaurant or a bar with a 6-foot rule in place. Is it feasible to have people eat at a restaurant wearing a mask? There's so many things that it seems like every time we figure out one, we end up with 5 more questions on the table about how is this going to affect everybody. And there's obviously unintended consequences everywhere. So I've been a member of a couple of subcommittees that it's been really, really interesting to be a part of. And, thankfully there's a lot of other people from each industry on the subcommittees as we're doing this, so that we're not putting any unrealistic expectations. It's easy sometimes for people in government to send down guidelines, but if you've never been in the industry, it's really difficult to know what it'll do to that industry. So it's been nice having other people chime in and say, this isn't feasible, we can't afford this. So we're really, really trying to send down thoughtful and carefully written guidelines for the industries to reopen.
So that's an incredible responsibility because, again, there's so many industries that make up New Mexico, which is the good side. The tough side is adjusting those per industry. And we know that the restaurant industry was hit pretty tough during this past few months. So, Carrie, are you going to be ready to open on May 16th? What is your opening plan for it? Because you have a lot of employees and several locations around the city. So give us just a little bit of what your plan is.
Well, since you asked, I will not be one of the ones opening on May 15th as of now. Given what my venues are, the size of them, at Salt Yard, we have lots of games. At Effects, obviously, I'm a nightclub. So at this point, I don't think that I'm going to be in the first phase of opening. Of course, as the owner of the business, it's disappointing. But on the other hand, being realistic, especially, with Effects, my entire industry, everything that I do is based on social interaction rather than social distancing. So, at this point, we're not getting ready. Hopefully we're in the next phase. Obviously we're gonna have to put some guidelines down with games, and, I don't know, unfortunately, there's the restaurant part of this industry is one thing, the seated, the seated capacity and, having servers and things like that is absolutely one thing. And you can definitely put guidelines on that. Opening something that people like to dance at, I would be hard pressed to get people in that are not going to try to dance. So, there's a lot more to think about on that side.
And that is a good point, because I think that a lot of people are itching for that interaction again. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It gives us a little bit of a perspective. So I'd like to move over to the city of Albuquerque for just a few minutes here. So Cynthia Jaramillo is joining us today. She is the Director of Economic Development for the city of Albuquerque. Cynthia, could you share with us a little bit about the city's plan, where you're at? You have been so involved from day one with the day-to-day and everything that's happening with small business. So please share. Let's hear what the city's doing.
Certainly, and thank you, Shannon, for having the city participate today, and thank you to Carrie and Brian for volunteering and serving as part of the governor's economic recovery task force. We know that small businesses are very limited in their time and so for the two of you to volunteer, we are all very grateful for that. Now, the ability to reopen the economy, of course, is up to the public and even business owners on how well we can take the necessary health precautions as we do open up. For example, physical distancing, face coverings, limited operations, and the way that we act now will allow us to move forward with the governor's phased reopening plan. Now, some of the things that we've been working on from a local perspective, our mayor early on, probably about 3 weeks ago, organized an internal economic recovery sub-task force as a part of the Emergency Operations Center. And so what my team has been doing is reaching out to local businesses and business associations like the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce as part of our economic recovery planning. And as you and your members are all aware, the city has far less financial resources than the state. And of course, we will abide by state regulations, but Mayor Keller is keen on trying to identify ways to be supportive. And so what our goal has been is to drill down to the individual pain points our small businesses are facing to see if there are ways that we can work together with the governor's task force and Bernalillo County to creatively address as many pain points as possible. Additionally, we're seeking input, and so this conversation couldn't be more timely about ways that government can achieve its goals, particularly related to social distancing. And again, so our objectives include identifying specific and immediate small business pain points that might be addressed through creative solutions. So we're really working on pain points in which government can help alleviate when it comes to small businesses reopening. Some of the things that we have done thus far since this pandemic is we developed and announced our micro business relief program. To date, we have awarded 150 Albuquerque micro businesses grants in the amount of $5,000. And as a matter of fact, my team is still working on getting the funding out, but we have been working really hard on just confirming paperwork and documents and such. And my team has aggressively been updating our business resource guide where you can find COVID-related information on our website. And of course, we continue to work with the state's Economic Development Department and also our local SBA office. From the federal perspective, our small business office continues to triage phone calls from small businesses to help them navigate several resources that in most cases are very confusing. And but again, we look forward to working with the states, with the task force. We're hopeful that we'll be able to provide our recommendations to the state's task force in the coming days, which we've floated up to the mayor's office for review. And that's where we are. But again, we continue to triage and take phone calls from small businesses as they come in.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. And I also, we also thank Mayor Keller for doing regular announcements and regular press conferences and sending out regular emails. Some of those emails have been very, very helpful in guiding some of the small businesses that call us and ask us questions. And with that being said, we do have a question. I think, Cynthia, maybe you might be able to take this. We do have industries that were hit a lot harder than others. We barely addressed the restaurants a little bit, so we know that that's definitely the hot topic. But there's also been businesses, small businesses, micro businesses, such as health spas and beauty spas, that type of stuff. And they're getting hit pretty bad. So there's an understanding that they may have a more delayed time in opening. And so just want to know if you have anything addition in that to add to that.
Thanks, Shannon. And I'm sorry, the question is regarding restaurants or salons. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's regarding more along the lines of like medical spas, people that are going to be real close up in contact. And I think one of the reasons was because Carrie brought up the fact that people want, in a nightclub want to get together and dance. And that brings up the question of people getting back into some of what they would consider their regular routine with, facials and that type of stuff. And somebody's asking that they had heard that there's an extension that they are not going to be able to open on May 15th.
Well, I know that, and Brian and Carrie can probably more adequately answer this question, but what we do know right now during this this ramp up in phase 1 is what are the sectors that are not open right now are, office, workspace, retail, dine-in restaurants and bars, malls, gyms, salons. Those, I believe, are part of phase 2. And again, Brian or Carrie could probably speak to this a little more definitely.
I'm actually, right before this Zoom meeting, I was on a meeting with the subcommittee that is writing the recommendations for salon and spas. And, they, again, have a great group of people that are in the industry, all sides of the industry, from tattoo parlors to massage therapists to, hair salons. So we are, again, trying to be thoughtful and thorough with the guidelines that we're putting out. As of now, I've not heard about a delay, but again, everything depends on numbers and things like that. So I don't think that anything's in stone at this point. Of course, we want to get everybody open, that can open in phase 2, but and again, I haven't heard any delay, but we're still working on some of those guidelines from the subcommittee.
So we have a couple questions that came in, but before we move to those questions, can we, I would like to bring Mei Ling and Marcos into this conversation. So maybe we could start with you, Mei Ling. Tell us a little bit about the county and where you guys are at with your plan. And then from there, we can move into start answering some of these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. So we're looking at it from the CARES Act perspective and deploying the funds that we receive from the federal government. The county is going to follow whatever the state guidelines are as far as the phasing plan. We have reached out to businesses in each of our districts. We've talked to, just in the last couple of weeks, 60 different businesses, and because I got Brian and Carrie on the phone, on the line, just a couple of things that we got back from the businesses that we couldn't answer from the county perspective that you could take back to the council is contact tracing. A lot of them are concerned about having to figure out how to trace contact and what the responsibility of the business will be in trying to manage to contact tracing. So that was one of the questions that came back. We couldn't find it in the phase 1 plan, and if I missed it, please let me know. The other thing is that you did talk about, as they phased in and opened up, a lot of the businesses were talking to us about what would be the capacity for gyms, not like your sports and wellness or your defined fitnesses, but your smaller gyms, the ones that are individually owned. They're not franchises. Some are franchises but are different, and maybe they're just classes that they, like yoga studios, what would be the capacity for a yoga studio? Those were questions that came back. One of the big concerns that came back that the county feels that they could respond to, because though state guidance will help provide us direction, is as a result of the CARES Act funding, and in using a lot of that, as a lot of businesses, and you mentioned this, Brian, was their ability to access PPE and hand sanitizer. And so what the county is looking at doing, and again, please note that this is all pending approval of the county commission, but some of the ideas that Marcos and I had come up with was doing a bulk purchase of PPE with our distribution and dispersing it among county businesses. And I think in conjunction with the city, if we could purchase enough, then we could hand that out to different businesses so that they could comply with the governor's or the state's direction as far as providing PPE to people that come into their stores, and having the hand sanitizers, so that if there's a bulk distribution to businesses countywide, then we have the ability to kind of provide the prophylactic that we need in the community. The other thing that we were talking about is purchasing hand washing stations, not just for county buildings, but for areas that maybe like shopping malls and whatnot, that they're more accessible as opposed to just the bathroom, but just a lot of hand washing stations that might be available to areas that have a higher density of people that attend. What that looks like, I don't know, but maybe we could get some direction from the state on what you guys feel that might be. But I feel like if we utilize the CARES Act money to provide the gap to businesses, because if you put on a business right now and say, okay, you need to purchase PPE and provide all of these things for your customers in order to open, I think that's kind of an unfair request, especially after they've been closed for approximately 2 months. So what we're looking at doing, and we're trying to position ourselves, is what can we do to assist the business to open, but also open safely without giving them the burden, or putting on them the burden of the cost of doing these additional things that we will need to in order to essentially create our new normal. So I know that's a lot, but I just wanted you to know in our discussions with small business, that's what we're getting. I mean, and these are conversations once the governor had their most recent press conference, this is a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from small businesses within Bernalillo County. As far as what the department is looking at doing is taking, and what we are able to do is taking the disbursement of the CARES Act stimulus money to creating a business grant program, which the CARES Act money allows us to do. And again, pending commission approval, Marcos and I are creating those policies and trying to decide what is the best way to deploy those funds quickly and effectively, understanding we have to comply with state statutes and other county policies. But I mean, just today and over this last weekend, Marcos worked diligently to kind of create those policies and draft what that looks like in the structure. And so we're meeting with county executive management later today to talk about how to deploy that. And this is how quickly we want to move, is we just got this money last week. We've been drafting what it's going to look like and how we want to disperse it. And so we feel like we're in a good place, and we're moving as quickly and more quickly than I think we've ever have on economic development items. But that's kind of where we're at, and I hope I didn't give you too much at one time. But I mean, that's kind of the gist of Bernalillo County, and Marcos, please add, if I missed something, please add.
The only other thing I wanted to add to.
I was going to say, please do, Marcos, jump in before we move to answer the questions. Let's get you on this panel.
Well, thank you. The only thing to add is that during the last commission meeting, the commission approved $500,000 that's going to go towards assistance programs. So right now we're in the RFP phase for organizations that provide business assistance to apply for that, so we can design that program. We should have our contractors under contract by the beginning of June, and then actually start that, so as business be able to help businesses enter into the new normal. And so that's the program that the county is working on as well.
Thank you, Marcos. Shannon, you're on mute.
So I'm going to reach back to Brian and Carrie. I'm getting used to Zoom, guys. It's crazy. Talk about new normal. We're like, hit this, close that, you know. So my apologies. So reach back out to Carrie and Brian to touch a little bit on some of the questions that Mei-Ling answered in regards to the small businesses and where they're at. And then there's also some questions that come in that we can address that may be answered by some of those questions, because a lot of them are alike. So please, Brian.
Sure, I'm going to jump in. Contract tracing is something we've talked about a little bit in the council, and I think we're going to get an update on Wednesday. The state is going to take responsibility for that. It's too hard for a small business to be able to, if you've got an employee that has COVID-19 and you're trying to help them figure out who all they've been in contact with, that's really tough. I mean, it's tough enough for the state, but they're going to do some software stuff, some cell phone tracing, do a lot of things that will help kind of cover that. But that's their goal, is to do the contact tracing, and to be able to provide more tests and test more people more often. So that's kind of a state responsibility. I don't think I would worry about that much. And then the other one is the capacity on the gyms. As Carrie said, she's done one of the industry-specific subcommittees last week on restaurants. So we've got industry subcommittees on, I think, like 28 or 29 different little industry subgroups. And they're coming up with specific guidelines for those industries. So, you know, if the gym bunch together is probably a big organization, they're going to get together and probably with the Department of the Environment talk about what kinds of things they need to do. Now, according to what I see, and we weren't real specific on phase one, exactly what's covered. That would be interesting to kind of flesh that out as we go over the next couple of weeks. But we say gyms and salons are going to be open on the 16th. Now, I don't know what that's massage salons or hair salons, and if it's a massage salon, for example, what are the industry-specific practices they're going to have to adopt to be able to open up safely for their employees and for their customers. Carrie, you want to jump in?
Sure. As far as the gyms and pretty much any industry, none of this is a one-size-fits all. Luckily, when the subcommittees were put together, there are people from huge salons and small salons. So we're really trying to chisel it out and try to give direction for, depending on what it is. I can tell you that there's going to be something for tanning salons and something for massage salons and hair salons versus nail salons. So it's a huge undertaking, but we're all working on it together and really trying to, again, be thoughtful and thorough. As far as the PPE, finding those, that has also been a discussion even today. We're on an email chain trying to figure it out. And one of my big things, especially in this industry, again, I'm in the restaurant and bar industry, and I do feel like we're one of the hardest hit. And I would be really hard pressed to send down guidelines or stipulations for people to reopen, and then the small business, the person who's been, not operating for the last few months, however long it's been, who we're going to tell needs to operate on a smaller scale, to then have to go purchase a lot of things. So trust me when I tell you, these are also things being talked about by the council, and we're trying to come up with some solutions. And I'm really happy that the city and county are both doing that as well. It's, we don't have all the answers yet, and we're honestly trying so that we can get those guidelines out there so that people have plenty of notice to get ready to open, because most businesses, you can't just flip on a light and be open the next day. And
sure.
We realize that.
Yeah, and that's why the county was looking at just purchasing it ourselves, because if we do it as a bulk, and then that limits, it reduces the burden of the small business owner, and that's right. What we want.
I think that's a phenomenal idea.
So guys, we're going to jump into some questions because we have well over a dozen questions. So some of these we can attack at the same time because they are some sort of the same style of question. But one of the biggest questions is face masks. Several of those come from local, it looks like gym owners. They're just wondering if anything has been discussed, whether it's in phase 1 or phase 2, that if you're attending a gym, will they be required to use face masks? Is that anything that has been solidified at all? Is that still up in the air? But we've had that more than one question.
So I would say that's kind of still up in the air. I mean, it's, again, we are trying to figure out the unintended consequences for this. It's all of the subcommittees are submitting their guidelines this week for our council to review with the governor. So I don't have an answer for that, but that is absolutely something that has been discussed at length.
Okay, a next question that we have is, looks like we have somebody asking, can you guys give us just a quick, whoever would be most qualified to answer this? The convention and tourism industry obviously is extremely impacted by this as well. Is there a subcommittee working on that? And is there any info that you can update to, you know, hoteliers or businesses that are in that industry as well?
Gary, do you want to take a first shot at it, and then I'll maybe add something?
Yes, there is a subcommittee just for the tourism industry, and so many things fall under it, from, you know, obviously hotels to the tram. So that is being addressed. Again, I don't have any updates on it. Again, the problem is that we're all still in subcommittee, so not all of the criteria have been moved forward, but there is a really, really good group of folks that are working on the issues of the tourism. A lot of them are obviously personally impacted by it. So yes, that is in subcommittee as well right now.
I think generally.
Anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think generally the governor is not going to want to promote any kind of big activity. You know, we've already canceled, in Clayton, for example, we've canceled the 4th of July celebration that we've had since the 1930s. I know they're thinking about the balloon festival, and they're thinking about county fairs and state fairs. It's a huge process to kind of go through, but you know, Santa Fe has already they've already stopped the Spanish market, the Indian market, probably Zozobra. So those are big tourist events that bring a lot of people to different communities, and I don't think she's wanting to go there. I mean, we still have a lot of people who want to come to New Mexico and hike in the mountains and four-wheel and do those kinds of more solitary activities. And I think those will ramp up fairly quickly, I hope. But I think the big festivals and those big crowds are not going to happen this year. Gary, would you agree? I mean, it's obviously the governor's decision, but I don't think I see that.
No, unless, you know, something, suddenly we have, you know, a herd immunity or a vaccine. I don't see that happening. I don't know. I don't know how to social distance in situations like that as of now. The governor, though, again, it is her call, and, you know, we'll see what happens, and we'll see what the tourism subcommittee comes up with. I mean, I know that they have a huge task on their hands as far as that goes.
For sure.
Great, thank you guys so much. And then another question just came in, which kind of makes sense. I'll go ahead and add it to this part. There is a couple of questions in regards to how do small business owners get any access to specific content or information in regards to their industry from your subcommittees? Where is that at, and how can they access that specific info?
You know, Gary, what do you think? Have any of the other restaurants that are not on that committee been able to access those documents?
Not yet. It's obviously still a work in progress. I do know that as soon as they are approved, from what I know, you know, the Secretary of Environmental Health will send it down to places like the New Mexico Restaurant Association. People might, you know, get them to their emails. Obviously, the state has a list of all businesses. The Regulation and Licensing Department, the superintendent there will send down the regulations to all of the salons that fall under them. And I don't know, I mean, honestly, past that, maybe it's you know, the state might put up a website, but that's something we can definitely look into and make sure that every New Mexican who is affected by this has access to it.
No,
Yeah,
and I
so
appreciate. Go ahead, Shannon. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I'm answering as you guys are talking, but I think the answer to that question is going to be, you know, as of right now, there's not necessarily a central location to go, but it sounds like you guys that are sitting on the task force could possibly ask if that could be something that in time could become available, so that people in specific industries know about their industry, not everybody else's industry, because of course they're interested in opening their facility. So that's going to be my response on that.
One of the things that's happening in Clayton, because, you know, we're out here in the boondocks and we don't get Albuquerque TV, so we don't hear a lot. The Chamber of Commerce has really worked at getting that kind of information, and they've sent out an email to all their businesses every day about kind of what's going on and what they're hearing. So that may be a good spot for you guys to really, and when it comes time to make those documents public, maybe you can help us by putting them on your website and communicating them first.
Absolutely, thank you. And I just also want to make one point to clear up this set of questions that Narissa Whittington did respond that she had sent an app to the governor's office for the contact tracing. So just whoever had asked about that, that's in the works, and we will let her know about that. Okay, a couple of the other questions that we got were, especially for the task force, how do you guys feel? And I guess this actually applies for the city and the county as well. I know that we're you know, under the governor's rule on this, but what do you guys feel about how solid the May 15th date is? And the reason that they're asking is because several questions have come up. They prepared to open on May 1st. Some of them had to order inventory, hire people back, things like that, and then it didn't happen. So the concern then becomes, you know, now I have to pay my staff for 2 weeks. I can't lay them off again. And how solid do we feel about that date for those that are in that first, you know, ready phase to open on May 15th? And would there be an opportunity or a chance that if that was going to be extended, that they would have more than a couple of days notice?
I'm going to jump in first, Carrie, and then you can add on. I think that's been a big issue for me, that we let businesses know what's going on. I think that, I mean, the governor will tell everybody, including the press conferences, the press, everybody else, that all of this is dependent on how the cases go. And there are guideposts along the way. And if we don't meet those guideposts, if all of a sudden we've got an uptick somewhere, I mean, and this is a good example, you know, we've opened up some state parks. So if all of a sudden we got a bunch of people at state parks and they're not socially distancing themselves, and a whole bunch of people get sick, then the governor's gonna probably backtrack a little bit on this. I mean, she said that, right? If we don't meet the guideposts, we're not going on. That being said, I think New Mexico overall has done really, really well. And again, outside the northwest area of the state, you know, those cases are coming down, the transmission rates coming down, all those things are better. But, you know, there's always that caveat, and the governor's been real clear about that she will, you know, she's not going to open up anymore if things get worse. That being said, also, we've encouraged her as the council to please, you know, let's make a decision early. You know, if it's not, we don't want to do this on the 13th, but, you know, maybe on the 10th or the 9th or whatever, give people a heads up so they don't make those kind of errors in judgment again.
So for anybody on the panel, the next question, a little difficult, but there has been small businesses that obviously have products and services the same as what we would consider a big box store. And so there's some frustration in the community for sure. And so I think the question is, and I'm not exactly sure, I guess, again, for the task force, but again, anybody on the panel that might be able to answer this, you know, why small businesses cannot or could not open up versus the big box store when they're more likely to be able to control the flow of traffic, the number of people in their stores. You know, and it's such a touchy question because we need both in our you know, economic ecosystem, if you will. But again, coming from frustration of small business owners. So let's just talk a little bit about that balance between being able to go to a big box store to buy your supplies versus why these mom and pop stores are asking to be held till May 15th.
Well, I'll jump in because this was a question I had the governor early on. I am a small business guy, and so, you know, luckily we've been able to be open, but it's been tough to watch. There's a lot of friends that are small businesses, especially in Clayton. What the governor has said to me, and I think to the council a couple of times, is what she was trying to do was cut down the number of trips or somebody was going somewhere. So instead of going to the grocery store, the hair salon, the liquor store, the clothing store, and then to Walmart and Home Depot, she tried to cut some of those things down. And I think she understands that it hasn't turned out as well as she'd hoped. I hope I'm not overstating that, but that's what she was really trying to do, is to cut down the number of trips, keep people at home as much as they possibly can. Gary, have you got an insight on that?
No, I mean, I really want people to know that, you know, with that being said, we were not part of the decision to close anything down.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I don't think that she did anything. She doesn't want to hurt the economy, you know, and I think that she had good intentions given what Brian's saying, but no, I mean, you know, you've got some small towns out there. I've gotten some emails from people that are telling me that how far they're driving now to actually go to a store that they can get some of the supplies from because of what happened. And, you know, again, we're doing the best that we can to get people open up as quickly and safely as possible. But no, we hear and agree with the concerns.
Do any of the other panelists have anything to add to that?
I can jump in. This is Cynthia Jaramillo here, and now I can't speak directly on behalf of the task force or the state of New Mexico, but just from a local perspective, I can say that we know that everyone wants to get back to normal life pre-COVID-19. The city of Albuquerque's, the majority of our budget is dependent on gross receipts taxes, and we all want to get back to work. But we also know that for a while, things aren't going to be the same as they were for some time. And it's essential that we take the necessary health precautions, quite frankly, until there's a vaccine. And the more that we do that, the sooner we are able to eventually get back to some sense of normal. And the last thing we want to do is to get into a situation where we open too soon or irresponsibly, and then we have to close down again. That will only mean a deeper economic impact, and ultimately more lives will be lost, and none of us want that. And so I just wanted to share that from a local perspective. We all want to get back to work. We all want to get back to the economy. I mean, before pre-COVID, you know, Albuquerque and the state of New Mexico, we were doing pretty well. We were on an incline. But again, we don't want to get into a situation where we open up too soon or irresponsibly.
Can I piggyback on that? Sorry.
Yes, please.
That's a perfect point. And that has been something that I would say every single meeting that we have had, one of our largest concerns is what happens, because this economy is not going to survive if we have to close it down again. You know, and I'm sitting on this council, and I know my businesses are not going to open right away, but I'm still trying to get everybody else open. But it doesn't make sense for me to open and endanger people's lives, and that's exactly what it is. So, you know, we are working really hard to get people open, because the worst thing in the world, and we know that, is to open and then have to close again. And so, you know, those are all things that we consider every single meeting.
Well,
and I think
that's a great segue, because one of the last questions that just came in is there is some people who are still on that fence and still say they might be non-essential, but they're still not planning to open up May 15th in protection of their employees as well. So Brian, over to you.
I was going to say one of the things the governor's been saying since we've had a council together is that there's a social contract that we have, and all of us are responsible not only for ourselves, but for our businesses, our employees, our customers, but for everybody. So, you know, you don't want to be, and I've heard the governor say this a couple of times, she didn't want to be responsible for her mother dying of the disease that she's carrying around. So she's really careful about wearing a mask and doing all the things that she feels like is necessary. So that's that contract with society that we all have to behave better. And if we do that, you know, people take care of themselves, then this will go a lot better. If they don't, it's going to be tough.
Well, we hate using the word the new normal, because everybody says stop using it, but it really is a new lifestyle, a new way of how we do business day to day, how we live our individual lives and our personal lives day to day. Everything has changed. That's the bottom line. So it really is a new normal. And I think so many small business owners are just trying to get their feet wet and kind of decide like what is their new normal. So I think that's sometimes the frustration that comes out. So before we go, guys, what I'd like to do is just ask each and every one of you to kind of give us your thoughts and opinions of what the next 30 days is going to look like with what in regards to what you're doing. Maybe it's the task force, the city, or the county. What can small businesses expect from you, and how can they reach you or your websites for that information? Because that's the biggest question we're getting, is where do we find a lot of this info? I think they have resources, but I know that sometimes they don't dig enough. So we're going to push that out and let them know that they got to kind of go through your websites. But let's just start with Brian, and we'll just go kind of round robin here.
Okay, Shannon, I'm going to take a stab at that, I guess. I'll give you my email address, and you guys can put it on your website. It's Brian@Ranch, and we abbreviate market, so it's ranchmkt.com. And I get 100 emails twice a day, so that's fine. But I respond, and I'm really curious about what's going on. I like it when people talk to me and let me know what's happening in their community, with their business, with their industry, and you know, it's my job, I think, when the governor asked me to do this, it's my job to take those concerns to the council. And we all have our own set, right? I have a lot of grocers, a lot of small business people that I know in small towns around eastern New Mexico. Carrie has a different set of people that she knows. Other members of the council have a different network. And so, you know, if you're Jason Sandell from Farmington, then the dentist in Farmington is going to call him. They're not going to call me. But we all bring those concerns together, and we talk about that in the council. And the governor's been really active in those discussions. She really wants to know. When Carrie talked about how hard it is to open up with only 50% occupancy, the governor told me later that really made an impact on her. She really thought about that from a small restaurant, you know, issue. So there's a lot of people thinking and doing. There's a lot, you know, the governor's trying to balance medical advisory guys with those of us on the economic recovery team that would like to move maybe a little faster. But I think we're going to be doing this for a while. I'm an optimistic guy. You know, I've been around for a long time. I've seen lots of problems that this state and this country has had. I think it'll get better. It's not going to get better. It's not going to get 100% better really fast, but it will get better. And you know, hopefully in a year, we can kind of put this behind us.
So Brian, I thank you for that, because one of the questions that did come in is how do they contact you? So we'll make sure that that information is up. And I think it just comes from people wanting you to hear what they're going through or what their opinions may be. And I'm sure that's important to those subcommittees that are trying to develop that information. Carrie, over to you.
Shannon, I think you do have my email address, so you're welcome to put that up as well. I've made jokes to members of the council that I'm pretty sure my phone number got posted somewhere, as many calls as I've gotten from people that I don't know, which is okay. I mean, here's the thing is, you know, you've got a small group of people and we're working on a massive undertaking. And I don't blame people for being frustrated and upset for not having answers. And I think that I know Brian and I'm sure every other member of the council is willing to hear anybody out. And I got a phone call on Friday from a small business owner who he was angry, and he has every right to be angry given the situation. He's comparing, you know, his store to a convenience store. And I think that the responsibility that we took on when the governor appointed each of us was to hear people out on this. And so, yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to reach out to me is more than welcome to. Obviously, especially, you know, the small business industry in this area, I'll do my best to answer questions. I'll also take anything to the council. Trust me, Brian can attest to this. We probably send about 100 emails a day to each other with issues, concerns, you know, just about everything. And, you know, then when we do have our council meetings, we're able to actually discuss them. So, you know, have faith that we will eventually get back to normal, that the governor is concerned about our economy, that all of us, you know, I feel like sometimes we're tearing her in two different places. She has a medical advisory team that their only thing that they're focused on is keeping people safe and healthy and alive. And then she has us who, you know, are trying our darndest to get the economy opening and going again. So, you know, she's definitely being pulled, but she's hearing us out, and that's huge. I appreciate that from her for sure.
Sure. And Carrie, so one of the questions that came in is how serious do you and Brian take your roles? Because, out of thousands and thousands of small businesses, you guys were chosen. So I think, the question is how, in running your own businesses on top of everything else, how important is this role to you that you've been appointed to?
I will tell you I'm unemployed right now. So, I don't have anything going on. I'm trying my best to be a homeschool mother. I can tell you that God probably thought I needed to learn a lot more patience than I already did. But you can ask Brian. I'm pretty sure I send him emails at all hours of the night. I've researched and written things and studied more than I ever did in college. And so as far as I go, this is huge. I mean, this is my livelihood. This is my life. If I don't get back open, I don't have a job. I don't have a place for my employees to come back to. It's not. This personally affects me in a way that I'm making decisions for me as well and my family, and making sure that that my kids have a roof over their head. So I don't know if I can take it any more seriously than I already do.
Great, thank you so much. Maylene, let's hop over to the county real quick with you and Marcos. What do you guys have in closing that we need the public to know about? Any places we can send them when they have questions within the county, and what this time has meant to you as well?
Well, first of all, you can contact Marcos and I via our emails or through burnco.gov. Our contact information is on the burnco.gov website. And we encourage you to reach out to us directly. Marcos and I are talking directly to businesses, and we want to hear from you because we're able to consolidate those concerns and push them forward and up. And so we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to keep a pulse on the county businesses and the economic development. We're also, and I just want the community to know, we're also working on economic development in its best form as far as recruiting and expanding businesses. We're still doing our job, and in this time and where we're at, we realize how important that is. So just know that is still happening. The other thing, and just in response to this, one of the things I would say is the comment that this is going to go on for a while is true, and maybe we need to relearn how we respond to it. And we need to take new and creative approaches to it. And as businesses are thinking about this, just like Carrie and Brian live it, there are a lot of you out there that live it. And we want to know what you are thinking or what ideas you have. Just the few that came up on the Q&A were helpful. And I think we just need to keep pressing forward and figuring out that solution, because maybe new normal isn't the word we need to be using. Maybe it's just a new way, and a new way to do business, and how we get to that, and whatever that may be. And I think in talking to businesses, the answer isn't going to come from government. It's going to come from our community, and it's going to come from the business community specifically, because you have the better answers than a bureaucrat that's been in that position for way too long. So please tell me, because I'm humble enough to know that I don't know, and I want to know, and I want to hear from you, and feel free to call me directly and tell me. Marcos, I'll defer to you if I missed anything, but I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's where we're at. And just to continue those conversations, we do have some resources on our webpage that just consolidates and truncates everything that's out there into one single a document. But it's just, we'd rather have that conversation with you and be able to point out to exactly which resource is going to be the best for your business and your employees, or if you're an individual as well. So we don't want to just give you a bunch of links, but actually have that conversation with you to learn from you, and then also how we can best help you.
Great. Cynthia?
Great. Thank you, Shannon, and well said, Maylene. I couldn't agree more. Answers and solutions aren't going to come from the government. They're going to come from the private sector. So well said. And as far as contacting us, you can reach us on our website. We have, again, like I mentioned earlier, a robust small business COVID guide. You could find it at cabq.gov. You can also reach our small business office directly or myself at 505-768-3270. And also, like the county mentioned, like Maylene mentioned, traditional economic development work is still happening. That's at the forefront and at the top of all of our minds. And I also want to remind folks to continue to support local Albuquerque. We started a local Albuquerque campaign. Mother's Day is this weekend. So if you could, while you would like to honor your mother, please maybe send her breakfast from her favorite local restaurant or flowers from a local florist, send her a gift card from a local business, and let us know about it at #SupportLocalABQ.
Thank you, Cynthia, for that. We'll definitely push that out there too. I think that now the businesses are starting to reopen, they're gonna really appreciate having that little nod, that little mention of what. We just have a couple of minutes, so before we go, I sure would love to ask you guys something, something a little fun. What is something that you guys are looking forward to when we return to whatever that new way of life is gonna be? So Brian, I'd love to start with you.
I'm really anxious to go fishing. A couple of state parks opened up. Ours is not opened up yet, but I'm hoping that it happens soon and I just get outside and fish.
I love it. Carrie, what about you?
Definitely shopping. I'm a huge shopper. I need to go back to Lily Barak. That's my store for sure. But honestly, just going to the playground and letting him play. That's we've been able to do walks and bike rides and stuff, but it's hard to we have a park just down the street, and to tell your kid that he cannot play on the equipment it stinks. And so, you know, that'll probably be pretty close to the beginning of one of the things that we do when this is done.
Wonderful. Yeah, now we've got summer vacation coming up, you know, so I can imagine the kids are climbing the walls. Maylene, what about you?
Well, fortunately, thanks to the golf courses being open, that's what I was looking forward to. But I also like to go see a baseball game. I would love to, you know, go see his Isotopes game. That would be really great. I know that's not until like phase 3, but I can wait. You know, I've waited this long, so.
I think everybody wants to get back out with family and friends into the community. I know that's what I'm looking forward to. Marcos, what about you?
I'm just looking forward to having a barbecue, because I love to smoke meats and be able to have all my friends and family over, and so I can't wait for that to happen too.
Yeah, more than 3 people. I get your,
Yes.
I feel you. I feel you. Cynthia, what about you?
Well, for those of you that know me, my favorite thing to do is sit in the stands and watch my 13-year-old play competitive softball. So I can't wait to get back out there on the softball field to watch her hit her next home run.
That's awesome. Well, guys, before we go, I want to just say, first and foremost, thank you to the panel. We still have a few questions coming in. I think we have some information we'll be able to provide to them, get those questions answered. If we have anything difficult or something we don't have specifics on, we will make sure to forward off your emails and websites so that they can track that information down if possible. I think that's first and foremost. I want to let everybody know that we're really excited with our partnership for the month of May with New Mexico Mutual. And with that being said, we invite everybody to join us on Wednesday. We are going to be joined by the Albuquerque City Council, several of the members, Cynthia Borrego and Clarissa Pena, and there will be other counselors joining us to ask those hard questions again, those specific questions, and anything that we can do to support small business and make sure that we're getting as close to getting those questions answered for you as we can. So that's going to be super important. So again, thank you to our sponsor this month, New Mexico Mutual, and our team. I can't say enough. New Mexico Tech has been an incredible partner last month and this month coming up. They're the little elves behind the scenes. They make sure that everything looks like it's smooth, like it runs flawless, and most of the time it does. So we're thankful to that. We're all learning a new technology, like Mei-Ling said, a new way of the way that we do business. So I'd like to leave you all today with this before we go. I'm not sure how many Star Wars fans we have out there, but I actually wore green today in support of May the 4th be with you. So it's really, really important that y'all get out. Maybe you can do a little family movie tonight, make some popcorn at home and pop in your favorite Star Wars movie. We're still in this all together. We're still one group, New Mexico all together, one Albuquerque, however we say it, all together. And we just want you guys to know that we're here to support you at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber and with this great team of leaders that we have across our community. So everybody have a great day. Get out there, celebrate Star Wars, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.